I want to thank you so much indeed, Dr. Kana Ahmed Abubakar, FNMGS, the General Manager, Nasarawa State Water Corporation. Many thanks indeed for joining us on our program, Green Coast, here on Control TV. Could you give us, as a lead, the fulcrum on which water resources rests on in Nasarawa State by way of giving a holistic overview of this particular resource that is so needed?
Thank you very much. In terms of water supply in Nasarawa State, it's been managed by the Nasarawa State Water Corporation, which came into being in 1996 to enact. Since it came on board, we inherited some water works from the then Plateau State, and the water works are predicated on two things. Usually water supply is dependent on rainfall, which forms rivers or what we call boreholes using groundwater system. And Nasarawa State has about two geology: sensu stricto, which is basement complex, which is rock, and then the sedimentary terrain. And each one of them, if you want to source of water, you have to involve what we call geophysical investigation, which is all encompassing, because some of the geology are very difficult, so that you need to use different kind of equipment so that you can be able to get your target to minimize economic waste. But we in Nasarawa State is divided into three geographical areas in terms of Central District. You can start from the close to Lafia, where the headquarters is. We have the Away Water Works, which was inherited. It's a groundwater-based system. But as we speak, it is Marabon, which is around Kekura, going to Tunga, where Dangote has Dangote sugar. The president is Marabon. It requires complete mobilization. Now we have another one inside the town, we did in 2017, which we're able to do. That area is saline in nature. You have a lot of salt in the ground, so you have to do a lot of techniques to be able to avoid the salinity. And that part we had to do a survey, which even it was the paper was even an invited paper in the European Geophysical Union, which eventually we implemented. And as we speak, 4 wells of 120 meters, which we do the slurring to avoid the salinity, currently giving the town of Away. Although it's not enough, and as soon as we have the political will of government, all the data on ground, we're going to do the implementation. We have the Obi Water Works, which was done in 1977. It is also Marabon. We have about 3 wells there, which are artesian. The water comes up by itself. Tries what we call Agu Shell. In Agu Shell is an area where you have water bearing and non-bearing layer, and that area has been disturbed over the years, called fault, and now the water oozes up by itself. But as we speak, it's also Marabon, but we have already taken the issue to Hyperdeck, which they are trying to intervene in that respect. Then we have another water works in Kana local government. It was done part of the Solomon Lar Second Republic, what we call the Midland Loans. We have about 5 boreholes there, away from the town because of salinity. And those ones, since I came on board, I put them in place, and they're also supplying water to Kana town with minimal salinity. However, we have written some proposals for the way of converting them to a sort of a hybrid system, so that we can use both DC and AC.
Because is the salinity, is it an advantage for you, or is it?
It's a disadvantage. It's a disadvantage.
How are you able to mitigate that?
Yes, it's the geology. So instead of now to do what we call reverse osmosis, nanofiltration, that is happening in the ancient countries, or in Netherlands, for instance, the nanofiltration is so costly that our economy cannot be able to sustain that. So that's why we use a hydrogeological knowledge to be able to avoid the saline area. That's why we have to move away from Kana town to Alosh, which is an adjoining local government. So it's more like a micro regional water supply scheme, giving the Aloshi and up to the Kana itself. Those are the ones we have there. Then we have the Dedere Water Works. Dedere is another development area under Obi local government. Those ones have our 10 wells far away because of Agu Shell. So for you to get water in that area, the shell contains coal. So you can only get water when it has undergone secondary weathering. So we have to go about over 10 kilometers away from town, drill 10 boreholes, connected to a ground tank, then we boost it to Dedere town, and it gives the various communities in that particular area. But the major impediment is also the same issue of power, relying on national grid and generator, and it's not sustainable. We have also reached to government to see how we can convert it to green energy so that we can be able to produce water at minimal cost. Then we have the Lafia Water Works, which is the headquarters of Lafia. It was constructed in 1985. It what we call the Amber Basin. That Amber Basin source water from surface and groundwater. I have a lot of springs there, and the 2 rivers that contributes to that basin is from River Bukomkoto and River Kaduna, and they all come there, and it was harnessed by one of my geological father, who is about 90 years old, to the area of Fordley, which will have the basin there, 1975, which is internationally acknowledged. Now it has been working. This year, 2025, is 40 years, which requires complete overhaul. As we speak, because of the Land Use Act in that particular land use in that area that has changed, you have rice mills along there, cottage industry. They have now sort of silted the river. The river has now silted up to 0.5 meter now, leading to what we call water bankruptcy, water bankruptcy reversal, which I had to produce a paper. I went to South Korea, Dijon, to present a paper on that. But as we speak, after getting that solution, it has reversed itself. But the good news now is I've told His Excellency Engineer A. Sule, the Field Nigeria Settlement Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, which has approved some resources now to see how we can be able to dredge that place, stone pitch, try to prevent the dirty water from town coming into that place, and the eutrophication activity, so that it will not finally empty after the basin. This is what we are doing. We are also having another option. Technically, if you have a dam and the water has dropped to up to 1/3 of the original design, you have to go into what we call conjunctive use of water supply. We have a lot of land there. Life here is a groundwater basin. We have a lot of water in that place. That is one of the two proposals for now. In water supply situation, we normally have three type of urban water supply. We have what we call the urban, which we rely on the main water supply scheme of the town. Estates, where you have different estates, they are not supposed to be connected to the public main. They are supposed to have independent, which we call satellite urban. And then finally, adjoining communities from those areas, we can also have a micro water supply scheme. Now, we have proposal for that to do in those kind of areas. Those are the phase 2. The phase 3 is the mega Lafia water supply scheme, which identified 3 major sub-basins within Lafia. Well, what we call Andrea, if you are going to Doma, they have so much groundwater there. We intended to have about 15 deep wells up to 300 meters, 10 inches. We put pump that is hybrid in nature, ground tank, overhead tank, hybrid system, then it gives the certain flank of the town. We have another one again around the, what we call now, if you are coming to Lafia from Nasarawa, from Abuja, what we have to call the Renewed Hope Estate, that particular area, Azuba, you have a lot of groundwater, the same kind of scheme. Then another one going to Shandam, where we have the late General Buhari's power scheme, which he did for Lafia in terms of upgrade. That area also has a lot we intend to have. Those are the final major water supply scheme that we intended to use. Now, however, President Tinubu just approved the construction of a new dam in Lafia. Now, as we speak, we are working with the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. Their team have come down. We have identified about a tertiary river down of Lafia, where all the rivers from River Bukomkoto, River Kaduna, River Amba itself, the springs, River Arahu, so many rivers around, they all meet in what we call a confluence down of Lafia.
I have a question.
Yes.
In all this that you've mentioned,
Yes.
what is the ratio of potable water that the people of Nasarawa State, let's say the urban Nasarawa, do they get tap water?
Yes. If you are not giving me a question to answer, to solve my own question too, I think if I'm to be very objective and not up to be political as a technical person, I think in terms of ratio, maybe about 20%. 20%, because our greatest water works is the Mada water work, which I have not even gone. If you are going to Akwanga, that big water works, south about 4 local governments, including the 177 battalion, which guard Mr. President in Abuja. That particular scheme supposed to give Nasarawa, Akwanga, Okona, Kefi. As we speak now, water does not even reach Kefi because of pressure of fractional losses from different communities. Even the university is also a community. It was all captured in the water budgeting of the 1995 when it was conceived. So you can see the water works are overstretched. This year again is 30 years during the construction of the commission of the Mada Water Works. It was commissioned in 1995. 30 years. You are supposed to do turnaround 1-2 after 10 years. You are supposed to do talking about expansion now in that particular corridor. Another major impediment there is the same power. We are using national grid. As we speak, the national grid is not too regular in that area. We need 2,000 kVA in that particular area alone. That's 2 megawatts alone for that water works. We have generator there, which is pneumatic in nature. That is a generator. You have to use a smaller generator using air to start the big generator. It takes 1 drum per hour. So in reality, as we speak now, what is even the recovery in terms of even paying water rate? Most of us are living below poverty line, certainly, and water is a social service. So we have written a lot of proposals. Apart from that, even the treatment chemicals are imported. Dollarization as we speak. The manager, or MD of a water corporation, or general manager as a way, does not report to the government directly, it passes through the Honorable Commission. But being a professional to the core, there are times he gives an opportunity to come and interface with him directly. I could recall one of the meetings, I gave him the complete rundown just I'm doing this program. After I finished, he said, to solve the problem of Nasarawa, we have to be taking each local government per year. And I said, Excellency, how many years is left for you? Which means, so, but I have a quick wins, and I gave you a quick wins, which we are able to, that's why we are able to attain this 20-30% I'm talking about now. But now, you know, Nasarawa is an agrarian state, and a lot of competing in their need of infrastructure. You do not have not even gone anywhere in the presentation of Nasarawa. You know the almighty Karo. 60% of the workforce of Abuja stay in Karo. And I presented a lot of papers, a lot of action memos to the National Council of Water Resources. And the last 3 National Council of Water Resources, I presented to see how we can have a safe our soul to that particular corridor. And incidentally, I was the first and last officer to be posted to see how water can be provided to the Karo environment, that's Maraba environment. The federal government has given us a pass mark, the FCT Water Board, the National Assembly has given us, but there is also another issue. The issue of federal government can only give us the water, but issue of pipeline, issue of reservoir, issue of the tariff, it has to be done by the state. As we speak, that particular corridor, the master plan is not even gazetted. And water does not meander through pipeline. It has to, must have to have a master plan. So that it's going to be tantamount to demolition. And the government does not have the resources. Then in terms of even the population ratio in that area, having Maraba and Karo is a mini Nigeria. It's an international community whereby even the people of Nasarawa, since Sostricto, are very few. Since Almakura's time, we have done this kind of argument, and that's why we have to focus in other areas. So in water value chain in the state, I am managing urban water supply and semi-urban water supply. There's what we call rural water supply, which majority of people of Nasarawa State are there to be able to have a sort of killing several with one stone. Issue of flood, issue of health, and other sundry issues. That's why the state government has collaborated with the federal government water resources into what we call the P-Wash program. Now we have even embarked onto the soil wash. We're even into trimming. We're into spin project. These are collaboration to see. We're even with JICA, the ambassador of Japan was in Nasarawa State. So we are, even Hyperdeck is also in this.
But when you say that, don't you think you're biting a little bit too much to handle?
So now it's order to be able to see, because of the policy of fund. If you recall, just purely a few weeks ago, Mr. President, President Tinubu was in Lafia to commission the flyover in Lafia and the underpass. One is going in Akwanga. We are even doing one in Kefi, which you know it has been a very dangerous area. It has been a nightmare of people dying in that particular area. Kefi is also a central area leading to south, to the northeast and the rest. So the state government is putting around 11 billion naira. And for information, in this country, Nasarawa is the second to last in the federal allocation from the FARC. And the IGR, if not because of this administration now, that it has jacked up to a certain level, which the governor is now trying to work hard, at least by the end of his tenure in 2027, we should be able to be generating at least about 5 billion per month. So that if you translate to that, that is the vision, that is the hope of Engineer A. Sule to Nasarawa State. Now, if you recall the Maraba area, where you have a lot of gridlock, people coming or passing, having a lot of loss of man hour in that area, is also making another flyover again in Maraba and Karo area. So you can see the competing demand. Now, Nasarawa State is a form of solid mineral which you are aware since 1960. That is the slogan. A lot of attraction of companies in terms of lithium-bearing minerals, in terms of base metals, in terms of even other industrial minerals like limestone, like barite, and you are aware that Nasarawa State has a hydrocarbon potential now. As we speak, drilling of the Ebene well, which you are aware, which was flagged off by March 2023 by late President Buhari, is also ongoing. So maybe by the time we are able to start getting the fruits of this, then we can be able to address this. So as we speak, yes, the governor is trying, and the people of Nasarawa are also trying in terms of responses. Now, our greatest nightmare again, issue of vandalization. Most of our pipelines are ductile iron pipe, and those ductile iron has high vandalization potential as we speak. If you are going to Kefi, those big pipes we are seeing 700 mm, each one of these 1.7 million. If you are going to Akwanga, it's about 400 mm, it's 850,000 per one. We're having a lot of battle with the scavengers. Emirs and chiefs have met, community leadership have met, the security have met. So we are even more related to what is happening in Niger Delta. But now, trying to see how we can be able to secure using the vigilante and the rest. These are some of the greatest nightmare. What is, even if I am to tell you now, even to the press, the complete agglomeration of revenue to the whole water supply in Nasarawa State, from the total I started up to from the away I started up to total, which is agents to FCT in Abaji. Maximum for a whole month is about 3 million naira to 3.5. That's what we're generating for a whole month. Now, what is our budget? Our budget is about over 2.something billion naira. So now, cost of diesel alone in our budget is about monthly is about 120 million naira. When you multiply by 10 months, then 12 months, chemicals alone, that, like this quarter we're talking about, is about 179 million. Last quarter it was 150 something. First quarter normally because of turbidity is better, so it is lower. And now we're having greatest nightmare, which I have not mentioned. Our mining activity that this President administration has been advocating, diversification to mining sector, diversification into agriculture, using modern equipment for agriculture, tilting the ground, leading to high rainfall because of climate change, erosion, transportation, leading to siltation of our rivers, leading to more turbidity in our rivers, now leading to high cost of treatment. So how do you reconcile this? That's why one of my action memo I presented in the National Council in Uyo, these are areas which it has been passed that there is supposed to be interagency cooperation. Apart from that, again, we are aware of the water bill which wouldn't pass.
As the general manager of the Nasarawa State Water Corporation, what must be done in terms of, stopgap measures to stop the mining activities from polluting or contaminating groundwater resources? Is there a way out?
So that's why the issue of environmental impact assessment is very, very important. And you do know that we have a water regulator in this country, which is Integrated Water Resources Management Commission. And when you are talking, it has to be interwoven, because Integrated Water Resources are supposed to manage entire waters within the state, giving issue of water licensing. Even within a mining area, you can have a mining area if there is a water body there, because that's what we call mineral dressing. There is no you do mining without water. You have to use water for the dressing. Where you are mining down, also groundwater also passes there. So there are some certain minerals that if they are in situ, they don't cause problem. Immediately you bring them out, they now tend to poison or contaminate the water. These are some of the issues which there are regulatory body. We have more than enough law in Nigeria from Ministry of Environment. You are aware of the NESTRA in the Ministry of Environment. They have offices all over. We have the mining cadastre and the rest that issue the mining licenses, and we have the mines office even in the ministry. So we are not short of laws. Now you are aware of the introduction or reintroduction of the mines police by this administration. These are things that have been in existence since colonial days, when we don't even have much expertise. But at that time, the mining, the population is not up to this. So the issue of the impact is not like this today. But I think this present administration has taken the bull by the horn, even from the last administration of the Mine Endeavor project, which a lot of areas have been identified. But why I, as a person mining the water sector in the state, we've been working closely with the Ministry of Environment to see how we can be able to do even some research work. Like the one in Uke now, we have Uke close to the Abuja here. Uke, you are mining gold in that area. For you to mine gold for you to bring gold out, sometimes you use some additives to bring it out. You are using mercury, and mercury can now react to what we call amalgam. Amalgam have the adverse effect to man. Now, as it causes effect to man, it affects the plant, it affects the animals, it affects the surface water, affects the groundwater, and that is the water that comes to River Uke. Eventually, from River Uke, the Karishi here, River Kurape, and they all meet and form the Nasarawa Dam that we have, that was commissioned by Solomon Lar administration in the Second Republic. So it's there. So we are doing a lot of work to see if we can have objective with Nasarawa State University, geology departments to be able to see objective data so that there could be deterrent in that respect. This is what we're doing.
What has been done in terms of developing the water resources potentials of Nasarawa State?
Thank you very much. Nasarawa, as it is, we have about majorly, strictly speaking, we have 3 major drainage systems. We have the river depth corridor. That river depth corridor is the water that comes from plateau escarpment, from Kura Falls, then comes down to what they call Foreign Rua today. From Foreign Rua, it moves down up to around Arikia. It comes to what they call Feferua Lake, maybe it's popularly known where you have hippopotamus. Then it comes down to the boundary of Nasarawa and Plateau, from Bakin Kogi to Jangwa, where Mr. Vice President came on commissioner rights today. We have about 3,000 hectares there being commissioned. From there, it moves to meet with River Shimankar and form what we call River Tunga, that is the upstream River Benue before Makodi. you can see that one drainage system in that particular area. The question is it perennial or non-perennial? So even the waterfalls in Kura Falls does not fall much again, based on the study we have done, hydrological study. We are now planning to put some equipment so that we can have hydrograph in the area. Then this other corridor is the Mada corridor, which from the Mada waterworks. We have that the Uke corridor there. Other one also empty out to before Umasha, before going to Lokoja. These are the major. If anybody that is moving from Lafia, from Abuja to Kefi, River Uke, if you go there dry season, you won't see water there. If you have a tower, which is a perennial water, it's a seasonal water supply scheme. So these are the major challenge we're having in terms of water. Now, a lot of mining activities are going along those areas. They are also tapping this water because most mining activities in Nigeria takes place in dry season because of certain inadequacies. Except if we are moved to the next level, if the mining majors are coming to this country to start doing real mining, not the rhetorics, not the kind of scavenging we're doing in this country, then we can be able to get a different narrative. But as we speak, they're also competing for this same water, for their mining activities, for the processing, they're addressing this same agriculture, doing irrigation within the same area. Now, that leads you to the issue of water appropriation, water economics, water services. Who comes first in terms of water? Is it mining or agriculture or man? Or even aesthetics or issue of tourism? These are issues we are trying to for the competition. So these are the major three corridors. As we speak, the federal government of Nigeria under ACRISAL, I am one of the panelists for the consultant in this country, which were even recently in Makodi 2 days before Salah, which we critique the work. We are having about 20 catchments in Nigeria now, which studies is ongoing. I was able to be among the team that critique the 3 catchments, so catchment, and the other catchment means drainage system. Water moves like what we call V theory. It moves like this, then means primary, secondary, tertiary, and finally all the rivers finally empty into Benue or River Niger, and then finally come to Lokoja, and then down up to the Niger Delta. These are the drainage system. So each area with different kind of problem. There are areas again that is groundwater, for instance, like I have mentioned earlier, like the away area, you have salinity challenge. So which you and then the geology is indurated, so you don't even have much water in the ground. So you have to use different kind of equipment so that you can be able to get your target. Then the basement complex like Kefi is basement, Akonga is basement, Nasarawa is basement, Nasarawa local government, some portion is basement, some are transition areas. Transition means 50-50. Like if you are going to Lafia after Nasarawa gone, between Gomonko and Nasarawa gone and Mil Uku, there is a geological boundary in that area where sedimentary and then basement is one of the work I presented even in Italy, in Sapienza University in 2015, which I did the conjunctive use of water supply Nasarawa, Nigeria, which we have both surface water, groundwater coming to give the people of Nasarawa as we speak. They are all functional. The only major challenge we're having there, issue of the power issue of vandalization. As we speak, these are some of the quagmire we are facing in that particular area. So we're working closely with the security agencies, working with the support of His Excellency Engineer A. Sule, fellow Nigerian Miner of Society, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, Executive Governor of Nasarawa State. He has given maximum cooperation to be able to deliver to the people of Nasarawa State.
When we talk in terms of dam construction, how important is this for harnessing, this particular resource? How important is it? Do we necessarily need dams in Nasarawa State?
Yes. What is a dam? A dam, the word dam comes from Amsterdam, when Bonaparte was managing Netherlands from France, to impede, to prevent, to stop. You cannot stop air, but if water is flowing through a natural system, then you bring something to impede. That is the word dam. So if the water is not there, how are you going to, what are you preventing? That is where the word dam comes from. So for you to do the damming, that's a engineering construction, you have to do what we call hydrology. You have to put something like a ruler. When you are in the village, you will see something like a ruler that people measure. That's where a gauge reader is. You are supposed to have gauge readers, and that gauging every 1 hour you go and measure every day, and all the data is going to be transmitted to the chief hydrologist in the water corporation or the ministers, where then it will be interpreted and collected to the river basin, which is in Makodi, which is what we call hydrological area 4. Nigeria is subdivided into 8 hydrological areas. 1 is Sokoto area, B is Niger, that's 2. 3 is Taraba, where you have what we call the Lagdo Dam area. Then 4 is Plateau, Nasarawa. Even some part of the FCT is also part of the 4. Then Benue, then Northern Kogi. Then 5 is Southern Kogi, up to the eastern Nigeria, up to the deltatic region, where you have so much water coming, flowing uncontrollably. That is the meaning of a deltatic condition. They finally empty onto the Atlantic Ocean. That is that particular area. Then what we call the western littoral, which is the whole southwestern Nigeria. The whole southwestern is what we call the western littoral. Then we have the hydrological area 7, which is the Calabar flank, Calabar, Akwa Ibom rivers. They also finally empty onto the Atlantic Ocean. Then finally is the one in the northwest, which forms the Jamara River basin. The Kana, it flows to Jigawa. Then the water, ironically, the water in Kana comes from plateau escarpment. Plateau is a highland with flat surfaces, so and you have high rainfall, more than 2,000 mm. So the water from that plateau, some fall down south to Nasarawa, then the other one falls and move to Kana to form the Dika Dam. From there, it moves to that drainage system into Jigawa, Gamodo River basin. Then it falls up to Yobe, then finally to Maiduguri, and then to Lake Chad. And then so waters come into transboundary waters come from some part of Chad and some part of Niger Republic, then to form what we call the Lake Chad basin. So you see that's how the drainage system in Nigeria, and we have what we call the 12 groundwater basins in Nigeria, apart from the 12 river basins which are predicated on surface water. Today we have 12 groundwater basins in Nigeria.
But if you have those dams, will they help? How will they help?
So now the question now is, if you are talking about Nasarawa, specifically now since Sostrito, those dams are dependent on the water that comes. The water is transboundary. It moves from one state to another.
Do you need dams?
If we need dams, if the water supply is continuous, if the water is continuous from the rivers. I've told you issue of climate change. So and then of the population and the overusage of the water upstream. That is where the issue of the water bill comes about, so that you can be able to have an habitat. If plateau is poisoning the water, let's say or contaminating water from upstream or Kaduna, it comes to Nasarawa. In terms of quantity, it could be in terms of quantity, it could be in terms of quality. So that's where the issue of the water bill comes, so that we have local transboundary between state to state. We have what we call international transboundary. We have the MBS to everywhere, the Niger Basin country, from Siputa Lajalon, it comes to Niamey, then come to Nigeria. So what happens upstream also, that leads you to issue water diplomacy. So you can see it is under interwoven. So but wherever you have the water, if you have surplus water, it's good to do the treatment plant, because you can have the water, water treatment plant. If you do the treatment plant, water the pipeline. If you do the pipeline, water reservoir. If you have done all these things, water power supply. You see, it is all interwoven. And one of the major challenges of the Nigerian problem is power, which I have said. If you go to other parts of the country, without power, you cannot have, wherever the water supply rate is high, is issue of power. Then the other aspect again, because of other activities, the quality of water, let's say 20 years ago, and with new activities, the raw water quality is becoming deteriorated. And even the treatment stages within the treatment plant that was maybe A, B, C, D, now new activities has come. Even agriculture putting pesticide and all of you has now made the water, the treatment to be up to certain level. There are issues of these metals, heavy metals in water. How do you remove heavy metals? These are heavy metals that contain sometimes thorium 232, thorium 222 and uranium 238. These are carcinogenic, and you cannot see it. And even quality of water is tasteless, colorless, odorless. You could have all those attributes, but these particular metals are inside in solution, which if you take it, it could take 10 years or 20 years, then the activity is going in the body, and then somebody will not be able to have cancer, depending on the type of cancer. And the next thing, by our belief in Nigeria, our culture in Nigeria, the next thing you think, maybe the problem is from the village. The problem is from the water supply.
What economic activities can people engage themselves in Nasarawa State that will be, call it profitable economic activities that will bring about water development and put some money in their pockets as well?
Yes, number one is irrigation, food security. I was in Doma. We have our sustainable power irrigation in Nigeria, which started this March this year. We're in Abuja here in Continental Hotel. The Honorable Minister of Water Resources is the main chair. The Minister of Agriculture is the co-chair, and then the Minister for Power is trying to see the hybrid. Why is it that our irrigation scheme has not come into full operation? It's power. We have, like in the far north, up north, we have what we call the trimming project, which will transform irrigation management in Nigeria, which ended just this month. Now we are moving into sustaining power. The gap has been the power. Most of our dams, especially in North Central, are low altitude. That to say where we are now here in the studio, you will discover that if you throw a stone to touch the water, it might take up to 10 meters. So now, if you want to abstract the water, depending on the kind of the irrigation system you want to, is it going to channelization or to sprinkle system? You need power. You have a pump that is there, big brand new pump, one of the best pump on earth. But for you to come, you have to have power. So like Doma Dam, which is the hub of the Lower Benue River Basin, as we speak, you have over 3,000 hectares there with more than over 40 million cubic meter water there lying down in Doma. As far back as 1973, after the drought of 1973, alongside with Baccalaureate Dam, is there. The challenge is power. They have about 1,000 kV generator that is there. You can't run it. So we have come back to square one. What we are doing now is that we are trying to leverage on this sustainable power irrigation in Nigeria to see if we can reconnect the power line of our national grid so that we can kill two birds with one stone. Water corporation will be producing water at zero cost. From that, we can also be doing the irrigation system. We are trying to see how we can complete the hydropower component, which we have discovered. So inadequacies, even in the construction, which we are in touch with the federal government of Nigeria and the World Bank. So these are areas. Recently, we are there, look at even the environmental impact with the small-scale farmers, the water supply, water association, and the rest. We held meeting with them, and they are so enthusiastic. Now, with even the bridge between academia, government, and then the industry is very closely now. All we need is just a little push. Most of them from the academic now, we have what we call genetic engineering, which whereby you can use certain crops that be able to the gestation period is very low, and then you are good to go. GMOs, which are where one of the common slogans now in the oven.
That is indeed a good place to let it rest. We most sincerely thank you, Dr. Kana Ahmed Abubakar, FNMGS, the General Manager, Nasarawa State Water Corporation, for your time and your thoughts, as we wish you well in your endeavors. Many thanks indeed.